Well, hi guys, welcome, and who dat? I'm Joe. Thanks for tuning in to Rosenfield 10, where I cover our beloved Bless You Boys in black and gold, the New Orleans Saints. Are you a who dat? Are you a who dat fan? If you're a who dat fan, subscribe to this channel. Think of me as a coworker or as a friend who loves the Saints as much as you do, and when you see me, you say, "Hey Joe, what you think about them Saints?" And I'll let you know what I'm thinking about them, and you let me know in the comments what you are thinking about. We'll keep it in the family, Sha. All right, this video, I'm giving you the second 53-man complete roster for the Saints, and I'm also going to show you the updated practice squad. We're going to talk about the moves that have been made in the last couple of days, and this video is posted as of Thursday, August 28th. So anything that happened after noon on Thursday, August 28th will be included in a future video. These things happen and they happen fast, and it'll probably happen until the regular season kicks off a week from this weekend. So I like to show the complete list of everything. I like to look at what I'm talking about. I want you to look at it while I'm talking about it so we don't get lost in translation like I do with a lot of these YouTube videos. The provider treats it as a podcast, and I'm looking for some visual aids here. So let's talk about the moves the Saints have made since my last video, which was posted yesterday. The Saints have claimed two players off of waivers, a former Bulldog and a former Tiger. The Saints have claimed wide receiver Trey Palmer off waivers from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Trey Palmer played with the LSU Tigers. I think he finished his collegiate career with Nebraska. He was drafted by Tampa Bay in the 6th round last year, no, 2 years ago. And in his rookie year, he had 30 something catches for 300 and something yards. He was pretty productive for a 6th round pick. Last year, I believe he only caught 12 balls. That's because Tampa Bay's wide receiving core is pretty deep. And after this year's draft, uh, they found Trey Palmer to be expendable. They, the Bucks have Mike Evans. They have Chris Godwin. They have Jalen McMillan, the rookie from last year. And in this year, they draft wide receiver Emeka Egbuka. So they're four deep, really good at wide receiver. And the Saints get the benefit from that because Trey Palmer is a speed guy and he's a pretty decent player to have on a cheap contract. We get him for 2 more years, this year and next year. He floats right around 6 foot, 6'1". He's only like 190 pounds, but he is fast and he has kick and punt return abilities. I'm assuming Palmer's going to be utilized that way as a punt returner sooner than later. Now, he's not a big guy, but he's fast. And he's not small. 6 foot, 6'1" is a decent size, a lot like Chris Olave, maybe a touch bigger. So I like the addition. I think Palmer is a guy that you would like to have on a 6th round rookie contract. See, the wide receiving core for this team is going to get expensive real quick. And we've added Devon Vele and now Trey Palmer on rookie contracts. Both of them are only going to cost like $1 million a year for the next couple of years. We've got Vele for 3 more years. And that's pretty good to have young, cheap talent in the room when you know that the salary is going to explode. When I show you the complete roster in a minute, we'll talk more about that. But I believe that's where Trey Palmer finds his spot with the team right away, is as a returner. And we're also going to talk about the former Bulldog offensive lineman Xavier Truss. Xavier Truss was one of 3 Georgia Bulldogs that played on the offensive line last year and came out in this past draft. All three of them were probably pretty versatile. I didn't think Georgia's offensive line was very impressive this past year, but mostly because a lot of those guys were playing multiple positions. Hey, Bell, my cat. So everyone thought Truss would come into the league as a guard. He was an undrafted free agent, and the Broncos picked him up. He was a priority undrafted free agent when the draft ended, in my mind. When teams started signing players to their rosters via undrafted rookies, I was looking for Truss and saw him on the Broncos list and thought, damn, they got one there. I had a feeling Sean Payton was going to put him at guard or tackle. He can play either one. And for the offseason for the Broncos, Truss played right tackle. So I believe if he would have passed waivers, the Broncos would have retained him on the practice squad. He's 6'7", somewhere around 310 to 320. So he's a big boy. And this makes up for getting rid of Mendoza, who was a right tackle we had all through camp. I thought we needed some depth at tackle in general, of course. And I'm really happy with the signing of Truss. So those are your two new signings via waivers. Now, when a team, so this is the way this works. A team can lay a claim on waivers for as many players as they want. They can put in 30 claims if they want. But if they're awarded the claim, if they are awarded the player, they are legally stuck with that player immediately. So the reason why this happens is you have to get rid of a player on your 53-man roster to make room for the who you claim. This is to keep teams from claiming as many players as they want to try to make it hard for other teams. So that's the trick. We get awarded Palmer, we get awarded Truss, and we have to make the roster moves. So we do. We get rid of wide receiver Cedric Wilson and tight end Jack Stoll. Okay, so both of those players ended up on our practice squad, and we'll be able to elevate them. And I think Stoll is going to be a very temporary member of the practice squad. I think Stoll's going to get elevated quite a few times. You can get elevated up to 3 times, and then I think we're going to find a spot on Stoll, on the roster for Stoll. So those are the two players we lost. Let's look at the practice squad first, and then we'll look at the complete roster. So here's the practice squad, the whole list, and there's only 15 players here. It's a 16-man practice squad. We have one spot available. Now, technically, we have 2 spots available because Charlie Smith, kicker Charlie Smith, is part of the international player program. His spot on the practice squad is considered an exempt. So we can probably get 2 more players on our practice squad. However, the deal with the international player program is if you have one of those players and he is a roster exempt on your practice squad, that means he cannot be activated to the active roster. He has to have an actual practice squad spot. He has to be taken off the exempt, placed on the practice squad, and then he can become an active member for the team. So I say you keep him on this exempt, and then if an injury happens to Groupie, then you go ahead and switch him from the exempt status to regular status, and then you get the guy on the team kicking for you. So in my opinion, we still have 2 spots available. I just had to make that clear because I wasn't sure about it myself. I wasn't sure how many people you could claim off waivers. I wasn't sure if you could switch a guy from exempt status to practice squad regular status so he can be activated. If you could do that mid-season, I wasn't sure if you could or not. Yes, you can. So there's your practice squad right there. We're going to start with 2 quarterbacks and Jake Hayner and Hunter Deckers. Eventually, we may end up putting a third quarterback on the active roster once People come back from injuries, and it's always a volatile situation with injuries. You're always going to need roster spots. Both of these quarterbacks are still in the room. They're both going to get they're both going to be at the facility. They're both going to be in the quarterback meetings, and you know, Kellen Moore says he's trying to develop both of these quarterbacks. I think we all feel like Hayner is a clipboard holder at best. I've always said Hayner is probably going to make a decent coach someday. But yeah, I wouldn't even want him being my emergency quarterback. It's it's not that I don't think he has ability. He does, just physically he can't make it in the league, it seems. He's got ability up here. He knows where to go with the ball. He's just not physically gifted enough. Probably not unlike Kellen Moore. So yeah, I like Hayner as a potential coach. He doesn't need to be on this team. Matter of fact, when I show you the complete roster, we're going to talk more about the quarterback situation. But Hunter Decker's he's got physical ability, but yeah, he's got a long way to go before he's suiting up for the Saints and playing in a regular season. That's for sure. All right, you'll notice on this practice squad we have no running backs, and since we have two available spots, I'm assuming one of them, at least one's, going to go to a running back. Not Clyde Edwards-Helaire though. I'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, disappointing. Okay, so wide receivers, we've retained Cedric Wilson Jr. and Kevin Austin Jr. So these are two big bodied guys, 6'1", 6'2" types, who can get elevated if Devon Vele is struggling with that knee injury of his, and we need a big body. We've got two of them here. I'm thinking that's three elevations apiece. So we've got about 6 games covered with a big body guy. Saints don't have a lot of big bodies on the team. Tight end, Jack Stoll and Trayton Welch. All of us fans love Welch, 6'3", 241. So he could get elevated. I think Stoll will be a priority elevation in the first couple of weeks of the season. We've only got two tight ends on the roster right now. And yeah, if we've got a game plan going in where we need more than two tight ends, I think Trayton Welch might get elevated as well. Uh, I think Welch presents a lot as a receiver. I'm glad he's still in the room. Let me tell you. All right, offensive line. On the practice squad, we've only got one right now, Easton Kilty, who played tackle and was featured at guard in the preseason. So Easton Kilty's kind of a swing guard tackle type. I think that's what you acquired with Xavier Truss through that waiver claim. So Truss is immediately on the active roster, and Kilty's still in the practice squad learning. He's still around, but yeah, I think both of them were undrafted, but Truss has probably a lot more ability. So we'll see. He just got here. Defensive end slash edge rusher. We've got two of them on the practice squad, Fadil Diggs and Jonah Williams. Both of them had their moments in preseason. Jonah Williams will probably be brought onto the active roster if we need an injury covered. He's a veteran. He knows this system very well. He can rush the passer as an edge rusher, stand up, or he can get on the defensive line. Fadil Diggs, he's showed a lot as a stand-up edge rusher in preseason, and I love having Diggs around. He showed some stuff on special teams too. I thought we should have made a spot on the roster for Diggs if we weren't going to keep Dante Pettis. So both of them are still in the building on our practice squad. At middle linebacker, we've got Nefi Sewell. Good deal. I thought we would do that. Cornerback, we've got Jaden Price and Dallas Beanham. Now, there were a couple of options that we could have brought on the practice squad at line, a second option at linebacker and a third option at cornerback, but we lost both of them through waiver claims, and I'll show you that after the practice squad. At safety, we kept Terrell Burgess, and he's probably going to be activated a few times early on. He's got that ability to play the nickel, and he's been in this defense his whole career. So Burgess is a good guy to have around. Elliot Davison is a developmental safety kid out of Texas San Antonio who grew up a Saints fan. And yeah, he got better and better as the offseason went along. And I'm glad Davis is sticking around. And then the aforementioned kicker, Charlie Smith, who I think is going to be a roster exempt, meaning that out of these 15 players, we still have room to sign two more. We don't have a defensive tackle in the room, and we don't have a running back in the room. So that is something I'm looking for us to address. John Ridgway is on IR, temporary IR right now. He is a defensive tackle. Once he's cleared of his IR status, he can come back in 4 weeks. If he's ready to go, he's a prime candidate to be a defensive tackle on this practice squad. You're just missing a running back. So why isn't Clyde Edwards-Helaire on this practice squad? Well, that's because we lost two players through waiver claims, and we lost a third in Clyde Edwards-Helaire as a vested veteran who decided to sign with someone else. So the Kansas City Chiefs are the team that Clyde Edwards-Helaire decided to go to. It's weird. The Chiefs got rid of him last year, and we picked him up. Maybe they had him on the practice squad to begin with, and we got him off their practice squad and put him on our active roster. I forgot how it went last year. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire seemed to be very excited about coming home. He was here for his career with LSU, and, hey, homecoming, everything looks great. Then we probably have this handshake deal where we're going to cut you, but you come back to the practice squad, we're going to need you. And he decides to go back to the Chiefs. Bummer. And as much as I like CEH, I like him a little less now. Traitor. That's how I feel. All right. So he made the choice to go to the Chiefs. The two players that didn't have a choice, cornerback Rico Payton, who we were certainly going to keep on the practice squad, was claimed off waivers by the New York Football Giants. He gets to be reunited with Paulson and Debo. And yeah, when you're a player that's claimed off waivers, you have no say in it. You have to go to that team, and that's your new job. The only way you can avoid playing for that team is if you hold out and lose all your money in your contract or if you retire. So whether Rico Payton likes it or not, he's going to the New York Giants. And we also lost through a waiver claim linebacker DeMarco Jackson. I was ready to lose Jackson. We're so deep at linebacker, and I thought Sewell was the better of the two to keep. But Sewell wasn't claimed. It was DeMarco Jackson that was claimed by our former defensive coordinator and head coach, Dennis Allen, who's now the defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. He probably had a big say in wanting to get this guy. Jackson is good on special teams, and he's very versatile. He had a low PFF score this preseason, but if you look at his body of work over the last couple of years since we drafted him in the fifth round, he's been active. He's played all the linebacker positions, and he's excelled at special teams. So Jackson's done everything that you need to do as a young player in his situation. So he's gone from the Saints now and reunited with Dennis Allen. I hope it feels so good because DeMarco didn't have a say in it. So those are the three players we've lost that I wanted to note. And now we're going to look at the complete roster, updated second 53-man roster, and we're going to pull up the offense first. There's the guys. So quarterback, yeah, Spencer Rattler, Tyler Shuck. We still have Jake Hayner and Hunter Deckers in the room. I'm thinking if one of these two starters gets injured, yeah, you got a guy that knows your system that you can bring up, but Jesus, man, I still think a guy like Easton Stick would probably give you more than Jake Hayner. I'm just saying. There's probably free agent quarterbacks If we're trying to be competitive, can you imagine if Rattler or Shuck get injured and then we bring up Hayner and then that second quarterback has to miss a week or two and we're starting with, yeah, Hayner or Deckers. I mean, anyway, a lot of Saints fans would like to lose every game this year so they can get a great draft pick. A lot of those Saints fans probably think we're going to draft Arch Manning, who's not even coming out into the draft next year. So, for those of you who think drafting a quarterback next year is inevitable, I would love to know your opinion of who you think we should go and get. Because a lot of people are talking about Lenoris Sellers, and he's like fifth or sixth on my list right now. We've got this entire college football year to evaluate these players some more, but yeah, for those of you who think we should lose every game so we can get a great draft pick, let me know who you want to draft. Let's start that conversation early. I'd like to. Let me know. I have Drew Aller kind of ranked at the same area as Garrett Nussmeier. My favorite at this point is Cade Klubnik, of course. If he would have came out in the draft this past year, he would have probably been a fourth round pick or a fifth round pick. I was very high on Klubnik all year long. And now he's projected in the simulators to be the first overall pick. That's weird how that works. If he'd have came out in the draft 4 months ago, 3 months ago, he would have been a fourth or fifth round pick. But now, 8 months from now, he's going to be the first overall guy. Well, yeah, I saw a lot of stuff in Klubnik. I like him. Okay, so let's look at this roster some more. Running back, yeah, we wanted Clyde Edwards-Helaire available so we could elevate him. A nice veteran presence. We don't have a running back on the practice squad now. Maybe we bring Cam Akers back, who wasn't that impressive in the offseason for us this year. Or maybe there's other players we have in mind. I hope we don't trade any future draft picks to go and acquire somebody. Um, I would like to keep all of our future draft picks and just take our lumps this year compared to spending a bunch of draft picks to try to be good this year. I don't mind spending the money we have to try to be good this year, but let's keep our draft picks. I like this idea of getting younger, and we are pretty young. Quarterback and running back, the only old person is Kamara. Everybody else is super young. At wide receiver, everybody's super young and super fast, except for Vele. Man, at wide receiver, we could win a 440 relay race in the NFL. Would be a 400. We could win a 500 because we have Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Brandon Cooks, Mason Tipton, and Trey Palmer. I don't think it gets faster than that. Man, I'll tell you what, if Kellen Moore has an offensive system designed for fast wide receivers everywhere, he's going to get a chance to showcase it this year if the quarterbacks can get him the ball because we've got speed everywhere. At tight end, Juwan Johnson and Malike Mataval, and that's it. Yep, well, we've got Trayton Welsh and Jack Stoll too. And I think Stoll's going to get elevated in this first game or two. I mean, both of them are probably going to get elevated until we get Foster Moreau back. And Foster Moreau's going to be on the pup list. He's probably going to have to miss at least 4 games. I don't know if the pup list works the same as the temporary IR list, but I think it is 4 weeks. So yeah, you're probably going to get 2 elevations for Stoll, 2 elevations for Welch, just to field a complete team until Morrow comes back. And then at offensive line, okay, so we've got Xavier Truss now. We needed that. We needed a guard tackle swing guy because Landon Young was the swing guard tackle type and he could play both sides of the line too. So I'm not sure if you get that with Truss, but he can play guard and tackle. And we traded for Richards on the left side. Now we've got a right side guy. And I'm a little happier now. I wanted to keep Mendoza, just get rid of Cedric Wilson to begin with, keep Mendoza. And then, if you can upgrade through free agency, or in this case, getting who I would consider a priority undrafted guy and trust, you can go ahead and claim him off waivers. You're upgrading slightly from Mendoza, maybe a little more than slightly. And you've got both sides of the line covered. Now, we're not going to keep 10 offensive linemen on this team. I think Fortner needs to learn how to play guard, right? Or he's going to lose that job to Torricelli Simpkins, who can play guard and center. And then the other guard, Trevor Penning, is a starter at guard. He could be considered a swing guard tackle, but yeah, you kind of want him starting. Can you imagine if Penning comes back from injury and he's forced to play tackle after he's been at guard all off season? And he wasn't that great at tackle to begin with. Probably slightly better than Redun's. I'm not sure as far as tackle goes. And yeah, that asterisk with Barry Wesley. He's still on the IR. He's going to have to miss 4 weeks. And then if Wesley comes back, he's going to be fighting with Richards and Truss for that backup offensive tackle spot. So we have bodies now at backup offensive tackle. I still wish we had a center guard type besides Simpkins. I still think Shane Lemieux would be a better choice right now than Fortner. But there's one thing for sure. You look at this offense, and you don't have a lot of age here. The oldest players are Cesar Ruiz and Eric McCoy, Jawan Johnson, Kendra Miller, Alvin Kamara and Brandon Cooks are old too, but the majority of this offense is super young, and that's pretty exciting. With Kellen Moore as our offensive guru, let's see what we can do with these guys. All right, that's the offense. So, yeah, I'm thinking when Wesley comes back off of IR in 4 weeks, I hope Richards is worth the draft pick we traded because we can just cut Wesley, waive Wesley, and then put him on the practice squad, keep him around. We only have one offensive lineman on that practice squad right now. So let's take a look at the defense. And the defense has stayed the same from my last video. John Ridgway's on that temporary IR. And yeah, it's looking pretty good. The defense, in my opinion, is looking pretty good, except for that defensive line. People talk about the defensive line being great all the time, even if you include the edge rushers. You're talking about the same damn defensive line we had last year, basically. When you talk about Chase Young, Brian Bresee, Nathan Shepard, and Carl Granderson, well, that's the same ineffective damn line we had last year. Well, you throw in Brian Bresee, who can might get a little better at run stopping. You hope for that. Nathan Shepard, he was a starter ahead of Bresee because he can play the run a little better. But yeah, we weren't any good against the run last year. So the new addition's Gottschall. He's going to make all the difference in the world. Yeah, you add Gottschall, you've made the line better, but I still don't think it's a great line. I got to see Chase Young get some sacks before I start talking about this defensive line being good. And I consider Chase Young a damn edge rusher, outside linebacker. I don't even barely consider him and Granderson and Jordan defensive linemen anymore. They may put their hand in the dirt a bunch, and when they do, they'll be a defensive lineman. But I'm still not excited based on these are all players we had last year, and we couldn't stop the run for nothing. So Devin Gottschall is going to be the man to make a difference. Devin Gottschall makes that difference and frees up everybody else to be more productive than they already were last year. Then maybe I'll start giving kudos to the defensive line. But everything else on this defense excites me. I love the middle linebackers and I love the secondary. We have a lot of questions at cornerback, but I'm excited. Isaac Yiadom is the old man of the bunch, and I think he's a better cornerback than people give him credit for. And the safeties. I'm excited to see Justin Reed and Julian Blackman out there for a whole game. That's going to be nice. I would actually love to see Tyrann Mathieu in this defense. I think Mathieu would have had success this year in this defense, but his retirement uh, doesn't hurt, at least on paper, because I think our secondary is pretty stacked. All right, there you go. That's the offense and the defense. the new updated roster. We've acquired Truss. We've acquired Palmer. We had to get rid of Stoll and Wilson. They both get on the practice squad. And I've shown you all of the list. Subscribe to Rosenfield 10. I will be updating the roster every week. What I do is I do a preview before every regular season game, and in that preview, I show the updated rosters. And then after the games on the weekend, I have another video reviewing the game and talking about what happened and where the Saints are at. And I'll do that all year long as we're a competitive football team. There you once you get to a spot where you know they're not competitive and they're out of it, then I'm going to change focus and start focusing in on the upcoming draft, which is a lot more fun to think about when your team is struggling like we were last year. I started focusing in on the draft probably in November, early December. So there's a possibility I do it, and you want those videos too. So subscribe to Rosenfield 10, and you can get all of that. You're not going to get better draft coverage from a Saints content provider than you will from me. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Who dat?